Hey guys, my guest today is Dov Gordon, and I want to tell you, coaches and consultants out there, this episode is for you. You will find it very valuable, or even if you want to, step out of your corporate job and start your own consultancy, yeah, you should stay tuned. This episode is totally for you. Lots of great tips and ways to understand how to get that clientele, how to start it. Yeah, so stay tuned. But before we start, don't forget to click subscribe and let's rock and roll. Hey, Dov Gordon, what's up, my man?
Good to be here, Dino.
So you are in Israel right now, right?
That's correct. From New York, currently living in Israel.
I was born in Israel.
You are?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah. Let's start with you telling a little bit about yourself and what exactly do you do in marketing?
I'll keep that part short because, about myself, not, we'll just keep that short. My narrow focus is really on helping consultants to become what I think of as under the radar leaders in their industry. And that's a platform that enables them to create a consistent flow of ideal clients. And that's what I do, is really focused on that. Sometimes it's solo consultants and sometimes it could be firms.
And what do you mean by under the radar leader?
Most of us, if you're good at what you do, and there are a lot of people who are very good at what they do, but they're not natural marketers or salespeople. It's just, I think that's true for most of us, probably maybe, 90%. And they wake up in the morning and they want to know, well, how do I, I'm leaving the corporate world, becoming a corporate refugee, whether it's by choice or by force. Now, how do I get clients consistently? And a lot of people think at first that it's going to be easy. They expect it will be easier than it turns out to be. They think, well, I'm really good at this and I did really well in the corporate world, so people are going to come to me. And there are a few who are lucky. They're just naturals at it and they do really well. But the overwhelming majority struggle to replace and certainly struggle to exceed their previous salary if they're coming from the corporate world. So you go looking for help and you type into Google how to get clients or however you end up there. And before you know it, you're signed up for a webinar and an ebook and a white paper, and you're getting emails from everybody. And, you're being told by this one about the other one and the next one. And suddenly you're on, certainly a handful, if not a couple of dozen different email lists, and everybody's telling you something else. And what we notice for a lot of them probably is that a lot of them are taking the approach of like the charismatic guru type, the celebrity expert type. And that's a lot of what they're leading people to do. But I think that's the wrong approach for most people. And my focus is specifically on helping people who most of their business tends to come through referrals, relationships, as opposed to, they're not necessarily interested in being that charismatic guru type. They're not necessarily interested in becoming a content marketing ninja or a Facebook ads ninja or any of that. And the problem with referrals is they're unpredictable. Problem with relationships is that they take a lot of time. What we do is we've developed a simple, repeatable process or an approach that helps people who are good at what they do to create a consistent flow of clients by becoming under the radar leaders in their industry. And basically what that means is you form your own network, your own inner circle, your own community group, whatever you want to call it. But there's a very specific way of going about it, which will either be comprised of your ideal clients or could be colleagues who are, all market and sell to audiences of the same type of people. And in that way, you end up with strong relationships with dozens or even 150 or 200 of well-placed people across your industry. And you don't necessarily have to be very famous to be very well, to doing very well financially and have a lot of influence. And I'm doing this from my own experience because that's what I've been doing for the last 10 plus years myself, growing my own business.
I think that, and you'll probably agree with me, that all those so-called gurus or people that will help you get clients or whatever, they talk about usually only one thing, and it's usually a tactic, like you said. Facebook ads, how to have a great LinkedIn profile, when both of us know that this is not going to help you. If you have a great profile, okay, now what? Or yes, you know how to create a great blog post, but it's all about strategy. So you need to start from the strategy and go down to the
Begin from the
tactics. Would
end.
you
Yeah.
would you agree?
Yeah, I always want to begin from the end, right? Like Stephen Covey said in the Seven Habits, begin with the end in mind. I don't remember what he was talking about, but specifically, but it's true, right? So you got to work backwards from what do I want to be selling to who, for what kind of price, and how do they need to perceive me in order to want to buy from me? And you
Right.
set about to create that perception in the minds of those people so that they're interested in buying, and because they realize it'll give them what they want.
I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, because it brings me to something interesting about what they think about the product, or what they think about you as someone who will help them if you're a coach or a consultant. I think that people don't think about you and if you can help them. They think about themselves and their end
Yeah.
results, right?
Yeah. And I think that a lot of times consultants, marketing consultants are doing their clients a disservice when they're asking their client to explain, well, how are you different? We need to figure out how are you different. I don't think that's the right question to ask. Because you can end up creating the perception of being different, even if you can't necessarily articulate that. Like the whole idea of a unique selling proposition. You know, I've seen people, push and get really frustrated because they couldn't come up with some unique selling proposition because they were taught by whoever, was teaching them, that if you could swap out your company name from your competitors and the unique selling proposition is still valid, then you don't have one yet. That's a really high bar, and the irony is that almost all marketing gurus use the same two examples when teaching unique selling proposition: Domino's Pizza and FedEx, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? FedEx, when it absolutely positively has to be there overnight, right?
Right.
Which is, they don't use that anymore, but that was what helped them grow. And
Right.
Domino's Pizza, whatever was hot in 30 minutes or it's yours free. If you've heard the concept of a USB, almost certainly it was taught to you with those two examples. And to me, that is perhaps not proof, perfect proof, but that is an indication that it's not necessary that you are so clearly and distinct from anybody else. Because if you think about it, what's the reason? What are we trying to accomplish when we're coming up with a unique selling proposition? Well, right, the way I see it is that there are three questions that your ideal customer or client is asking themselves from when they never heard of you, your product, your service, to where they're happily handing over money, small or large amounts, to get whatever it is that you're selling. There's only three questions. The first question is, should I pay attention? Is it interesting? Should I pay attention? Is it interesting? And if your message gets their attention and interest, or whatever you're doing, then and only then do they have a second question, which is, you got me interested, but can I trust you? Do you know what you're talking about? Do you have, or are you just trying to sell me something, right? So some version of, can I trust you? And if they conclude that, yes, you got me interested, and yes, I can trust you, then and only then do they think of the third question, which is what you recommend right for me? Is what you recommend right for me? Now, the USP, unique selling proposition, is there. It'll help them answer yes to the first question and or yes to the third question. So let's say in the case of FedEx, right? When it absolutely positively has to be there overnight, right? Should I pay attention? Is it interesting? Well, if I'm their target market and I've got something I need to get somewhere else, or to the other side of the country or the other side of the world securely within
But
a really...
let me just stop you here. If you're not their target market, it's not for you. So when FedEx sat with the people who came up with all of that, and it took a long time and lots of meetings and brainstorming, one of the first things that they've done was, who is our target market and
Correct.
what is the best slogan for that target market that will answer their pain point. So what I'm saying is that this slogan is focused only on those people who need it immediately somewhere. All the rest of the people, it doesn't matter if it interests them or not, because
True.
they are not here in the target. So it doesn't really matter. What matters is that you talk the right way and solve the right pain point of the target audience. All the rest are not important right now. So,
True.
and then, like you said, okay, they got my attention. Now what? I think that people ask one question, and is kind of a mix of all of your three questions.
Okay.
Why should I buy? How does it make my life easier or better? Or how does it help me? Or how does it solve my issues?
You need to recognize that the goal, what you're really trying to accomplish, is just to help your ideal client answer yes to that question of, should I pay attention? Is it interesting? So you don't have to struggle to come up with some way that you are different from everybody else, like FedEx and Domino's, which they did, and it worked well for them, and that's fine. You just need to be able to get their attention and interest by talking about a problem they have and don't want, and or a result they want and don't have.
So if I'm a consultant, okay, and I've been working, you know what, I've been laid off due to Corona, and I decided, hey, I am really good at, I don't know, XYZ. I want to start being, you know, my own boss and help other people. What is the first step that I need to do?
First step is to sit down and make a list of what are the problems that you can help solve and what are the results that you can enable. And it's often two sides of the same coin. And to be specific, because that's the first step, but let me add two more, because it's really three questions, and I think of it as an overlapping Venn diagram, a three-circle Venn diagram. So the first is, make a list of what are the problems you can help solve / what are the results you can enable. Number two, who has those problems and who wants those results, and think of any way that you can group potential, you know, clients, like what types of categories will they fit in. And number three is, what are the qualities and characteristics of your ideal client? What makes somebody the kind of person or business or consumer that you would enjoy working with? And as you answer one, it'll help you answer the other two. And as you answer the second, it'll help you answer the first and the third, and so on. So don't try to get it perfect. It's really, it's an exercise that you're going to go over several times. But when you get to some clarity about what kind of problem are you solving for who, that's when you've identified a customer. And then working backwards, the next step is, well, okay, what's how might I serve this customer? Am I going to package my expertise? Am I, you know, create a program? Am I going to do each, you know, customized for each person? And you don't have to know the answer to that 100%, but you have to have something in mind. And then you say, well, okay, now how do I talk about it? How do I get in front of this type of person? And what's the message that I'm going to be using or messaging? How am I going to talk about it? What kind of stories could I tell? What will I say to get their attention and interest so that they're interested in having a conversation? And of course, this works one-to-one, but it also works one-to-many using advertising or whatever platforms or media or technologies available. The principles don't change, though. It's just that when you're talking one-to-one, you don't have leverage. You have less scale, which has its pros and cons. But you also don't get the feedback. You don't have the ability to see how people are reacting, responding in real time, which of course you do have with one-to-one or a limited size group when you're seeing them. So that's how you get started.
And then once you have that, what is the first step to actually, you know, get your first client or get your first group or sell your first time product, course, whatever it is?
Yeah, well, the hardest thing is getting the first client. The hardest thing is taking something that you've never sold before, that you may not even be 100% of exactly how it's going to play out. The first is always the hardest. And then, you know, sometimes people get lucky and that could work for them or against them. Sometimes if you get lucky and then you start to think, wow, I'm really good, then you're going to fall flat on your face because you start to believe that you're skilled when you're really just lucky. And sometimes it's a real struggle at first. So I would say like the goal, get that first client, even if it's a very limited scope project and for a low price. Again, obviously this is general advice and it might be different for different people.
Yeah.
But generally is get that client. You're going to learn while working with people. So just take on a client that you believe you can help. And nothing will be more valuable than just moving forward.
That is so true. I like what you said about you will learn so much more while working with that client. And it's so true. Every client, and you have to be open to learn from your clients and from this specific project, what was good, what was bad. And just like everything in life, you learn every day something. So open your eyes, open your ears, take it under consideration so you will be better next time, better at getting your next client, for it to be a better client and produce better results and be a better coach, or create a better course or program or whatever it is for your next client. I think that's, I like what you said. You will learn so much with that first client. So get that first client and then things will happen. I mean, the second won't be that easy as well, but you have to just continue, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Nice.
we get in our own way largely because obviously, there are some people who have never have self-doubt, probably have other, that they might be completely full of themselves, so they have an other problem. But the overwhelming majority of people have some degree of self-doubt.
Yeah.
And we then tend to assume that the others don't have our problems. Oh, they're not stuck on this or that, or and then we stop. But it's not true. And it's taken me quite a while to really come to believe that. And lots of conversations with many people over many years to really come to recognize that everybody is messed up. Everybody is falling down in some way in their own mind for sure, if not in others. Right. And if we focus on creative contribution to other people, to whoever it is that we can help, who has that, the ones who have the problem that we can help solve and, help them get the result that they want and don't have, rather than holding ourselves to some other standard, that's when we really start to have an impact. That's when people really start to respond in a positive way, because you're freeing yourself to just be yourself, to develop your own voice, to create and contribute in a way that only you can. And the sooner you can free yourself from this self-imposed shackles, the sooner you're really going to have an impact, and what you're putting out will come back to you.
I like this. It's very inspirational. I think it's a perfect time to finish this with all this inspirational thinking. I like it. Everyone has shitty days and everyone has their own shackles, and you don't know what's going on in their life to life. So just
Absolutely.
continue. I love it, Dov.
I put up a page for your audience at profitablerelationship.com/Dino, Dino. And we have a
Awesome.
little free training that builds on the under the radar industry leader concept.
Perfect. And I'll set a link as well in the description so everyone could just click on it and go there. Thank you so much, man.
My pleasure. Thank you.